He invited his ex-wife to his baby shower just to humiliate her. She arrived holding 4 babies. Jack Skywalker froze mid-speech. The entire baby shower, hundreds of eyes, glittering decorations, camera flashes, shifted toward the entrance as the doors swung open, and Rose Kenobi walked in, breathless, trembling, and clutching 4 newborn babies against her chest. 4. Not 1. Not 2. 4. And in that explosive heartbeat, Jack's satisfied smirk, the same one he'd been rehearsing for weeks, collapsed. He had invited her here to break her. To embarrass her. To show her everything she failed to give him. Instead, she stepped into the room like a living plot twist. The crowd gasped first. Jack gasped second. And Rose, she just stared at him with eyes that hid a storm. Hello, viewers, the narrator's voice dropped into a breathless hush, the tension igniting like a fuse. Wherever you're watching from, drop it in the comments. And tell me, how on earth would you react if your ex-wife walked into your celebration carrying quadruplets? If you haven't subscribed yet, take a second. This story is about to get wild. Because everything in that ballroom, every lie, every betrayal, every carefully curated public image, was about to be blown apart. The string quartet fell silent. The billionaire guests whispered viciously behind flutes of champagne. Jack's pregnant fiancée stiffened beside him, her grip on his arm turning to stone. And Rose, sweet, quiet, too gentle Rose, the woman he once loved and then threw away like she was nothing. She adjusted the babies in her arms and said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, "Jack, we need to talk." Jack's throat dried. His pulse hammered. He felt something he hadn't felt in years, fear. Not the kind that comes from danger. The kind that comes from truth. Because Jack Skywalker, billionaire, media darling, soon-to-be father, knew one thing instantly. Rose wasn't here to beg. Rose wasn't here to fall apart. Rose wasn't here to be humiliated. She was here to change everything. The room began to ripple, murmurs rising, cameras sneaking upward. Rose's cheeks were flushed, her hair tangled from wind, her arms shaking from carrying 4 infants alone. But her voice, when she spoke, it didn't shake. "Jack," she said, stepping forward as every jaw in the room dropped, "you should have never invited me. Not like this." Something in his spine locked. Something in his fiancée's eyes darkened. Something in the entire crowd shifted, a wave of anticipation, confusion, excitement, judgment, crashing all at once. The babies stirred. One cried. Rose gently rocked them, eyes never leaving Jack's. And the question that sent the audience spiraling. Whose babies were they? Jack's? Someone else's? Adopted? Abandoned? Hidden? Why bring them here? Why now? Why at the very party meant to shame her? "Let me ask you something," the narrator pulled you closer. "Would you stay in that room? Would you run? Or would you watch every second of what happens next?" Because in the next moments, Jack's perfect world, his reputation, his engagement, his empire, his carefully rehearsed performance, would begin to crack. And Rose Kenobi, whose heart he shattered, was about to reveal a truth big enough to bury him. The ballroom felt too small for all the eyes, all the judgment, all the shock thickening the air. Rose Kenobi stood at the center of it, quiet, trembling at the edges, but undeniably present, undeniably strong, undeniably changed. Jack Skywalker had always known her as soft-spoken, gentle, almost too kind for her own good. But the woman standing before him now carried a silence heavy with secrets. And 4 newborns. Jack couldn't stop staring at the babies. Their tiny fists. Their soft breaths. The way Rose held them like she'd been doing it forever. His fiancée, Emily Rook, finally found her voice, sharp, cold, slicing through the whispering crowd. "Jack," she hissed under her breath, "why does she have 4 babies? Why is she even here? What is?" "This isn't the time," Jack muttered, but his voice cracked. Emily's perfectly painted smile twitched. Her fingers dug into his arm, leaving crescents of irritation, or fear. It was always so hard to tell with her. Rose lifted her chin, eyes flicking toward Emily with the smallest hint of recognition, then pity. That stung Jack more than he wanted to admit. Jack, Rose said softly. May we speak privately? Murmurs spiked again. Someone gasped loud enough to echo. A billionaire guest whispered, "Oh, this is definitely going on socials." Another muttered, "Are those his babies?" A woman clutched her pearls. Someone started recording more openly. Rose heard every whisper. She always did. But she held her ground, barefoot, exhausted, wearing a coat too thin for the weather, holding 4 swaddled infants like they were her shield and her purpose. Jack swallowed hard. She shouldn't have looked that strong. She shouldn't have looked that beautiful. And she definitely shouldn't have looked hurt. Not still. Not after everything. He stepped toward her. Rose, who are? She shook her head, cutting him off, and her voice carried a quiet steel he'd never heard before. I'll explain, she murmured. But not here. Not with them watching. The way she said them sent a ripple of mystery through the room, through him. The viewers would feel it too. The narrator leaned closer like a friend whispering beside you. Where are you watching from? Go ahead and drop your location in the comments, because what's about to twist next will make your jaw hit the floor. And if you haven't subscribed, trust me, you'll want to. Jack motioned for security to give them space, but Emily stepped forward sharply. No, Emily snapped. No private talks. Not with her. Her voice was all ice, no sparkle. Rose's gaze flicked to her. Emily, she said gently, I'm not here to fight you. But Emily laughed bitterly. You crashed our baby shower. You invited her, someone reminded. Emily ignored it. With 4 children you expect us to believe aren't part of some dramatic stunt? Honestly, Rose, this is pathetic. The word pathetic made Rose's lips tremble, but she didn't break. Instead, she adjusted one of the babies who'd begun fussing. The simple act, the way her hands moved instinctively, naturally, made Jack's chest tighten. He remembered those hands once holding his. He remembered her whispering about wanting a family someday. He remembered her crying when the doctors said her chances were low. He remembered breaking her heart. Not once. Not twice. Repeatedly. And now here she was, with 4 children of her own. Rose, Jack breathed, stepping closer. Who are they? Her eyes glistened. She didn't answer. Not yet. Behind them, the baby shower decorations felt suddenly grotesque, pink and blue balloons, a giant Daddy TOB banner, the 5-tiered cake Emily insisted on, the lavish displays meant to show the world that Jack's future was picture perfect. It all felt fake. Compared to Rose standing there, raw, honest, hurting, it all felt like plastic. Then a tiny whimper rose from one of the babies, a soft sound that cracked something deep inside Jack. He leaned in slightly. Are they okay? Rose nodded. They're just hungry. It's been a long morning. Her voice shook, finally revealing the exhaustion behind her strength. Jack felt it like a punch. What had she been through to get here? To walk into this room, of all places, carrying 4 newborns alone? Emily scoffed. She's doing this for attention. Look at her. Rose didn't even look her way. She looked at Jack. And Jack, for the first time that night, felt small. Very small. I didn't come here to ruin your celebration, Rose said quietly. I came because I didn't have a choice. The ballroom fell so silent you could hear the chandeliers humming. What does that mean? Jack asked, his voice breaking in spite of himself. Rose tightened her grip on the babies. It means, she whispered, that everything you think you know about the past 5 months is a lie. A shiver crawled up Jack's spine. Emily's face drained of color. Rose, Jack said slowly, what are you talking about? She shook her head. This is bigger than you, Jack, she said. Bigger than me. And if we don't talk now, someone is going to get hurt. The viewers could feel it, the tension, the secrets, the storm brewing. The narrator murmured, "Tell me in the comments, what do you think Rose is hiding? And don't forget to subscribe if you want us to keep unraveling this mystery." Jack looked at her, truly looked, and he knew one thing. The woman he once left behind was about to lead him into the biggest revelation of his life. The hallway outside the ballroom was quieter, but not by much. The murmurs from inside still leaked through the walls like vines of gossip, tightening around Jack's throat. Rose stood near the marble staircase, the 4 babies bundled in her arms like living secrets. Jack couldn't stop looking at them, or at her. Emily had stayed behind, furious and trembling, but unwilling to follow them out and risk public embarrassment. Good. Jack needed space. He needed answers. He needed truth. Rose's breath hitched as she shifted the babies. "We can sit," Jack suggested quickly. "Here," he reached to help. "Don't," she whispered sharply. Jack froze. Her tone wasn't angry, it was scared. Terrified, even. Rose looked around the corridor, eyes darting to every shadow, every corner, as if expecting someone, or something, to appear. "Rose," Jack murmured, "you're shaking. What's going on? Who are these kids? Why are you acting like someone's after you?" She swallowed hard. "Jack, listen to me very carefully." Her voice went low, urgent, trembling. "This is not about the babies. It's about who's looking for them." A cold pulse rolled through Jack's veins. "Who?" he demanded. Rose looked him dead in the eyes. "Your fiancée." The air dropped 10 degrees. Jack blinked. "Emily?" "Rose, Emily's not perfect, but she wouldn't." "She would." Rose's voice cracked. "She already did." One of the babies stirred and whimpered. Rose brushed a hand over the tiny forehead, her touch trembling. Jack felt something twist in his chest. "This isn't funny," he growled. "If you're trying to." "I'm not," she whispered. "Jack, I wouldn't have come here. I wouldn't have walked into that room. I wouldn't have put myself through seeing you with her. I wouldn't have embarrassed myself like this." Her voice broke. "But she left me no choice." Jack's heart slammed against his ribs. "What did she do?" Rose inhaled sharply, steadying herself. "Emily paid someone to take advantage of me financially. She sabotaged my job interview. She tracked where I was living. She made sure I stayed small. Quiet." Jack staggered back. "What? Why?" Her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of anger. "And exhaustion. Because Emily didn't want me near you. She wanted me erased from your life." "But Jack," her voice dropped. "She had another reason. A much darker one. This was no longer a baby shower scandal. This was a threat." Jack's breathing quickened. "Rose. Tell me." Rose tightened her hold on the babies. "Jack, these 4 children." Jack leaned forward, throat tight. "They're the reason Emily wants me gone. They're the reason she's been hunting me." Jack's chest constricted, stomach coiling into a knot. His voice scraped out raw. "Rose, whose babies are they?" Rose hesitated, just long enough for Jack's pulse to spike. Then she whispered. "Jack, they're not mine." Silence. A thick, suffocating silence. Jack blinked rapidly, confusion slicing through him. "What do you mean they're not yours?" "You're carrying them." "I rescued them," Rose said. "I'm trying to keep them alive." The corridor tilted. Jack's breath caught. "Rose, what are you saying?" She stepped closer, her voice trembling with urgency. "These babies belong to someone Emily knows. Someone powerful. Someone dangerous. Someone who paid Emily to get rid of the evidence." Jack's pulse thundered. Evidence of what? Rose inhaled, tears spilling over. Human trafficking. Jack's knees nearly buckled. The world spun. The air thinned. Everything inside him twisted in revulsion and disbelief. Rose, he whispered, this can't be real. It is. Her voice shattered. That's why I'm running. That's why I came here. Because Emily knows I have them. And if she finds me? Her voice died. She clutched the babies tighter. Jack's entire moral foundation buckled. His fiancée. His future. His so-called perfect life. Everything was warping into something monstrous. Jack, Rose whispered, stepping forward. I didn't come for revenge. I didn't come to ruin your day. I came because you're the only person I could trust. The only person who might protect them. Her eyes met his with raw honesty. The only person who ever truly protected me. It hit him in the chest, an emotional punch deep enough to break bone. He took a slow breath, the weight of a decision settling on his shoulders. Because now he had to choose. Emily. Or Rose? Comfortable lies. Or devastating truth? The life he built. Or the life he abandoned? The narrator whispered like a friend leaning close. Drop a comment, what would you do in Jack's place? And make sure you're subscribed. The next part of this story? It's about to explode. For a long moment, Jack Skywalker couldn't breathe. Not because he doubted Rose. Not because her words were impossible. But because deep down, beneath ego, beneath pride, beneath all the mess he'd made, he knew Rose Kenobi would never come to him with something like this unless it was life or death. And those 4 tiny infants. Their soft cries. Their trembling breaths against Rose's chest. Death felt closer than anyone in that glittering ballroom had realized. Rose, Jack whispered, stepping closer, lowering his voice, we need to get you somewhere safe. All of you. But Rose shook her head. It's not just me. The people after these babies, Emily's partners, they have resources, Jack. Money. Power. Connections everywhere. You're safe with me, he insisted. But even he wasn't convinced yet. Their eyes met, hers filled with fear she was holding together by threads, his filled with a dawning horror. And then, softly, timidly, one of the babies let out a small, heart-punching cry. Rose's facade cracked. Her shoulders shook. Her lip trembled. I'm trying, she whispered to the baby, rocking gently. I'm trying so hard. Jack felt something inside him fracture. Rose was doing this alone. Terrified. Running for her life. Protecting 4 newborns she could have walked away from, but didn't. Rose, Jack murmured, carefully offering a hand that hovered near her elbow, you don't have to do this by yourself anymore. Let me help. Her eyes flicked to his hand, hesitant, broken, hopeful. Jack, you left me once, she whispered. How do I know you won't choose Emily again? He swallowed hard. Her voice. That tremor. The echo of every wound he'd caused. It gutted him. I can't undo what I did, he said, voice rough. But I won't fail you now. I swear it. A flicker of trust sparked. Small, but real. Before Rose could speak, footsteps echoed from the ballroom. Sharp. Fast. Coming their way. Jack's pulse spiked. Emily. Rose stiffened immediately. Her grip on the babies tightened. Her breath hitched. Jack, she whispered urgently, if she sees me out here alone with you, she'll know I told you. She'll panic. She'll call her contacts. She swallowed. And they'll kill us before we get outside. Every instinct in Jack's body snapped into protective mode. The air thickened. His skin prickled. Every alarm bell in his chest went off at once. Rose, he said quickly, come with me. Now. He guided her down the corridor toward a side passage used by staff, the one Emily didn't know about. Rose followed, clutching the babies, twisting her body so they were shielded. Emily's voice rang out behind them. Jack? Jack? Where are you? Her tone wasn't angry anymore, it was sharp. Controlled. Terrifyingly calm. The footsteps quickened. She can't see us. Rose's whisper tightened with raw panic. I know, Jack said. Keep moving. They slipped behind a floral display and into the service hall just as Emily rounded the corner. Jack pulled Rose in gently but firmly, pressing a fingertip to his lips. Rose nodded silently. Emily's heels clicked past the doorway, slowly, like she was listening for breath. Listening for secrets. Jack, Emily's voice turned sweet, dangerous. We need to talk. Rose flinched. Jack's jaw flexed. Emily paused, just outside the doorway. Her shadow stretched long and thin across the hall floor. Where did you take her? Emily asked softly. You know she's lying, right? You know she's pretending to be a victim again, don't you? Jack held his breath. Rose squeezed her eyes shut. I'll find you, Emily whispered. A chill crawled up Jack's spine. At last, her footsteps faded. Rose's knees gave out, Jack caught her before she fell. I'm so tired, she whispered, tears finally spilling. Jack, I haven't slept in 3 days. I keep thinking they'll find us. I keep thinking I'll fail them. He steadied her, voice breaking. You won't. I won't let that happen. Rose leaned into him for the briefest moment, exhaustion overpowering fear, her forehead brushing his shoulder. Jack stilled, breath catching, an old ache stirring. Her voice was tiny, fragile. Jack. I don't think I can make it alone anymore. You're not alone, he murmured. Not ever again. The baby squirmed softly, as if agreeing. The narrator leaned close, whispering to the viewer. Comment below, what do you think Jack should do next? And don't forget to hit subscribe, because the story is about to hit its first massive twist. Because in the next seconds. Before Jack could lead Rose out the back exit. Before he could call security. Before he could plan anything. His phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. We know she told you. You have 5 minutes before we reach the hotel. Do not leave the building. Jack's heart stopped. Rose looked up at him. What is it? She whispered. Jack's hand shook as he showed her the screen. Rose went ghost white. And the 4 newborns, the very center of this storm, began to cry all at once. The danger was no longer a threat. It had arrived. The cries of the 4 infants filled the narrow service hallway, soft, frantic, heartbreaking. Rose tried to soothe them, swaying, whispering, shushing, but her arms were shaking from pure exhaustion. Jack Skywalker stood frozen, the threatening text burning on his phone screen like a warning brand. They're coming. They know. And they want the babies. Reality shifted sharply around him. The luxurious hotel. The glittering party. The carefully curated celebration. All of it meant nothing now. Rose lifted her wide, terrified eyes to him. Jack, we have to run. And then? The service door behind them clicked. Both of them turned sharply. It wasn't Emily. It wasn't security. It was someone Jack recognized instantly. Connor Draven, his head of security, loyal, quiet, unshakable. But tonight, his expression wasn't reassuring. It was pale. Stiff. Uncertain. Sir, he said, voice low, we have a situation. Jack stepped in front of Rose and the babies, instinct kicking in so fast it surprised even him. What situation? He demanded. Connor swallowed, his gaze darting toward Rose with something like pity, or fear. They've locked down the hotel entrances, Connor said quietly. All of them. The staff doors. The parking deck. Loading dock. The main lobby. Even the rooftop. Who is they? Jack snapped. Connor shifted uncomfortably. I'm not authorized to say. Rose's knees nearly buckled. Oh God, she whispered. They're here. Jack, they're here already. Jack grabbed Connor by the vest. Tell me everything. Now. Connor hesitated, far too long for a man whose job was giving immediate answers. Finally, he leaned in. It's your fiancée, sir. Jack's blood froze. Connor's voice lowered even more. Emily put in a private security request under your name, and I mean your name, Jack. Forged signature. Authorization codes. Everything. Jack's grip tightened. Explain. Connor exhaled shakily. She told the private team you'd lost 4 infants. She said they were stolen. She said they were in danger. She said we, your team, were to recover them by force. He swallowed. If necessary. Rose gasped. She wants them taken back to the facility. Connor's eyes widened. Facility? Jack felt the floor tilt. Connor, he growled, listen to me. You trust me, right? Connor nodded immediately. Of course, sir. Then protect Rose and these babies with your life. Connor hesitated again. A terrible, heavy pause. Sir. His voice cracked. I was ordered to bring Rose to Emily. Rose's breath hitched sharply. Jack's heart slammed into something dark and furious. Are you following Emily's orders or mine? Jack demanded. Connor looked torn, truly torn, the loyalty he'd had for years warring with the manipulative command he'd unwittingly obeyed. Finally. He stepped back and said. Your orders, sir. Relief flooded Rose so hard she nearly collapsed. But the victory lasted only seconds. Because Connor added. But we don't have much time. The team Emily hired, they're not amateurs. They're armed. They're fast. And they're already inside. Rose's baby started crying again, louder, panicked, sensing the fear. Jack turned to Rose. And she broke. Tears streamed down her cheeks, her voice cracking into 1,000 pieces. Jack. I'm so scared. Her shoulders trembled. I've done everything I can. I've run from place to place. I've hidden. I haven't eaten. I haven't slept. Every time I thought we were safe, someone found us again. She clutched the babies tighter, choking back sobs. I can't lose them. I can't let them be taken back. I won't survive it, Jack. I won't. Jack reached out and gently touched her cheek, his thumb brushing away one of her tears before it fell. You won't lose them, he whispered. You have me now. Rose's eyes widened, startled, hopeful, breaking open. For the first time since the divorce, she let herself lean into him, just an inch, just enough to feel the warmth she thought she'd lost forever. Jack swallowed hard. Tell me everything, he whispered. No more secrets. No more half-truths. What's really going on, Rose? Who are these babies? And why is Emily involved in something like this? Rose inhaled shakily. And then she dropped the real truth. Jack. She tightened her hold on the infants. These babies aren't orphans. Jack's heart pounded. They're connected to your family. Jack staggered back as if struck. What? What do you mean? Rose closed her eyes. These 4 babies, they're connected to your mother's foundation. Jack's blood froze. His mother, Isabel Skywalker, ran a massive global fertility charity that funded clinics around the world. Rose's next words shattered Jack's remaining reality. The clinics, they're not helping women get pregnant. They're harvesting babies. Jack's vision blurred. No, that's impossible. Rose looked at him with devastating clarity. These 4 babies were born inside one of those clinics. Emily's job was to oversee the distribution. And when she found out I knew, when I tried to take the babies to safety, she put a target on my back. She lifted her tear-soaked gaze to him. Jack, your fiancé is part of a trafficking ring. The world collapsed beneath him. His mother. Emily. His future. His life. All woven into something monstrous. A sickening twist of betrayal hit him so hard he staggered. Connor inhaled sharply behind him. The babies wailed louder. Rose trembled against the cold marble wall. The narrator leaned closer, whispering to viewers like an urgent friend. Comment your thoughts, because this twist just changed everything. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you're missing the most explosive parts of this story. Jack looked at Rose. Her fear. Her bravery. Her exhaustion. Her strength. And he made a decision. A decision that would shape everything that came next. Rose, he whispered, voice trembling but firm, I'm going to get you, and these babies, out of here alive. And then I'm going to take down everyone involved. Rose let out a sob that wasn't just fear. It was relief. Hope. Trust. Something old and fragile coming back to life. Jack took her hand. Held it. Squeezed it. Let's go, he said. Now. Jack felt the building tilt as if the ground itself wanted to swallow him whole. They'd barely cleared the staff corridor when the alarm screamed, high, mechanical, a sound that threw everyone into animal panic. Connor's face, usually an unmoving slate, crumbled into something unreadable. Go, he barked, voice snapping into the only command that cut through the noise. He shoved Rose and the babies toward the service elevator. Now. Jack moved like a man underwater, slow, heavy, every decision magnified into consequence. He should have called security, called the police, broadcast a warning. He should have done 1,000 practical things. Instead he did one, held Rose's hand, let the baby's muffled cries push oxygen into his lungs, and followed. The elevator doors clanged shut. For a half-breath, Jack let himself believe they were safe. For a half-breath, Rose let her shoulders drop and cry quietly into his jacket. Then the elevator juddered, and stopped. Lights flickered. A metallic grind. A voice over the intercom, too calm, too clipped, filled the small box. Mr. Skywalker. Ms. Kenobi. We've been expecting you. The voice sounded like someone reading from a perfect script. Connor's jaw tightened beside the panel. We've been cut off. They've overridden the building systems. Don't open the doors. Panic tightened Rose's fingers on a swaddled fist. We can't stay here, she whispered. We have to move. They'll find us. Jack looked through the elevator slit at the hallway beyond and saw a row of men, lean, black-clad, impassive, fanning outward like a net. One of them raised a small device, the elevator jerked, like a puppet on a string. Jack's stomach turned. He thought of the wedding ring he'd once slipped onto Rose's finger in a small, laughing kitchen. He thought of apologies he never said. He thought of the night she cried alone because he'd finished his work and not her. Regret flared hot and useless. The intercom voice continued, patient as a dead thing. You made the mistake of rescuing what doesn't belong to you, Ms. Kenobi. Return the infants and no one gets hurt. Rose's eyes went feral, fear braided with a protectiveness so violent it filled the tiny elevator until the air itself seemed to bend. No, she said, one syllable of defiance. I will not give them back. One of the swaddled babies blinked as if sensing the sound of danger and began a cry that shredded the small space. Then, like a slow, impossible betrayal, Connor stepped forward. Jack had trained with Connor, confided in him, trusted him through a dozen crises. Now Connor's face was stone. His eyes flicked to Jack and then, when Jack met his gaze, slid away. You can't outswear her, Connor murmured, as if speaking to himself. Orders are orders. Jack's shock was a physical thing. Connor, what are you saying? Connor's head bowed a breath. He lifted a hand that had once held weapons steady in Jack's battles and put it, quietly, on the elevator panel. I'm sorry, sir. the panel clicked. The elevator unlocked. The doors parted and, in one motion that felt like a single long knife, 3 masked men spilled in and shoved Rose against the opposite wall. "Hands up," one of them ordered. "Now." Rose pressed the babies to her chest with the kind of ferocity mothers reserve for predators. "No, don't," her voice broke. "They're not." They seized 2 infants at once, fingers efficient, cruel. One of the babies' cries took on a new, horrified pitch as it was pried from Rose's arms. A second baby's tiny body trembled. Jack lunged. Connor stepped between them. "You can't," Jack gasped. "Connor, stand down." Connor's face was a war. He fought something else on the inside and lost. "My family," he mouthed, failing to finish. There was shame, pleading, something that looked like betrayal burning inside his eyes. One of the men leveled a hand. "Sir, back away. This is under control." Jack felt a hot, volcanic rage rise, less at the intruders than at the man who refused to protect what mattered most. He felt the past closing in, the arrogance that had made him invite Rose here in the first place, the months he wasted polishing a life while she bled quietly in its margins. "Connor," he whispered, raw. "If you hand them over, if you let them take those babies, there won't be a line in the paper big enough to say how guilty you'll feel." Connor's hands shook. He didn't move. The leader barked an order. The 3 masked men shoved Rose down the elevator shaft, no, not down, toward the service door. Someone in the ballroom screamed. Security moved like molasses, blocked by forged orders, confused by a lockout that a phone command had created. Jack tried to hold on. He managed to grab Rose's coat as one of them dragged her past, but a gloved hand struck his wrist and his fingers slipped away. "Keep them moving," the leader grunted. "We have a vehicle ready. We extract." Rose's eyes met Jack's once as she was hauled away. "No words, only a look, don't let them win. Save them." The elevator door slammed shut. Connor's face imploded into something unrecognizable, an imitation of a man who had failed. Jack wanted to tear the doors open, to fight every man in black with his bare hands, to bring the entire world crashing down. But the elevator cables groaned. The control panel blinked red. A security guard burst into the corridor shouting, "They've gone to the loading bay, black SUV, license plate," and then the guard grabbed a radio, barked into it, and his words became a blur as a polished black vehicle peeled out into the night. Jack barely heard the guard say, "We've lost them." The word "lost" felt like a verdict. In the glittering ballroom above, Emily stepped out into the open and smiled at 100 camera phones as reporters leaned toward her to capture the spectacle. She raised a hand, immaculate, and the cameras ate it up. Her eyes were calm. Her lips were soft with victory. Jack's vision tunneled. Everything that remained of his composure snapped. He ran. He smashed through staff doors, sprinted to the loading bay, to the valet zone, to the rear exit. He screamed to every security officer, every driver. They gave him blank faces and shrugged shoulders. "Check the cameras," he demanded. "License plate, where did they go?" One young tech swiveled open a console. The grainy footage showed a black SUV exit the loading bay, slip into traffic, and vanish. Jack felt the vacuum of helplessness swallow him. He thought of Rose's 4 tiny faces, of 2 of them in unknown hands. He could already feel the future, a hollow shell where laughter should be. Connor collapsed into a chair, unmanned. "I'm sorry," he repeated like a prayer. "I'm so sorry." Jack couldn't hate him for that, not yet. Hate wouldn't free the babies. Hysteria wouldn't arrest anyone. He needed a plan, but the plan required time he had never had. He had only one tangible asset left, his name, his money, his reach. He hammered his phone with calls, demanded support, lawyers, helicopters, contacts, anything. The silence on the other end of the lines felt like an intentional betrayal. Emily's forged orders had put entire squads on hold. When he finally got through to his mother's private aide, Isabel Skywalker's office, her voice was a practiced bomb. "Jack," she said sweetly. "We're monitoring the situation." He wanted to throttle her. "They took them, Mom. They took 2 of them. They're gone." "Oh goodness," she said, the concern crisp and staged. "We will help. We have resources everywhere." He could feel the affinity for control in her tone, smell the bureaucracy that could smother anything growing. "Do everything," he barked. "And find Emily." There was a pause, too long. Then she said, "Of course, dear. We'll speak with your fiancé." He slammed the phone shut. Rose's last look, steely, pleading, haunted him. He had failed the single person he'd ever truly hurt and owed more than words could remedy. For the first time, the future he had built, the vacations, the boardrooms, the curated photos, felt worthless. For the first time, the only thing that mattered was 4 tiny heartbeats he had no guarantee of saving. The darkest hour was not one of external threat now, it was the internal abyss, the scary, paralyzing truth: he might have lost the children forever, and everything he'd been would not be enough to get them back. Outside, the city pulsed on obliviously. A cab driver sang along to the radio. A couple argued about dinner. Life moved, indifferent. Jack pressed his forehead to the cool glass and whispered, "Forgive me. I will fix this." He didn't know how. He only knew he had to try. Jack Skywalker had known fear before. Boardroom fear. Reputation fear. Failure fear. But none of it compared to this. None of it compared to the silence that followed the abduction of Rose and the infants. His heartbeat was a hammer. Adrenaline burned like acid through his veins. Every second felt like a countdown he was already losing. And then, his phone buzzed. A single text from the only person he didn't expect to hear from. "Jack. Come to the penthouse. Now." Connor. Jack didn't think, he ran. Up the service stairwell, past startled staff, 3 steps at a time until his lungs were on fire. He burst into the penthouse corridor, found the door ajar, and slammed it open. And froze. Connor Draven stood inside, battered, bleeding, one arm wrapped around his ribs like his own body betrayed him. But he wasn't alone. Sitting on the floor beside him, shaking, crying, clutching 2 babies against her chest, was Rose Kenobi. Safe. Alive. 2 of the 4 newborns breathing softly against her. She looked up, startled, exhausted, but when she saw him, her face cracked open with something like relief and longing intertwined. "Jack," she whispered. His knees nearly gave out. He ran to her, dropped to the floor, and gathered her into his arms without thinking. Rose collapsed against him, her forehead pressed to his collarbone as the babies whimpered. "I thought I lost you," Jack whispered into her hair. "I thought, God, Rose, I thought." Her voice was raw. "They tried to take all 4. Connor stopped them. He risked everything." Connor groaned. "Not everything. Just my career. And maybe my spleen." Rose let out a shaking breath, half sob, half laughter. "He grabbed me when the men got separated. Said he wasn't taking orders from Emily anymore." Connor looked away, shame and resolve mixing behind his eyes. "I have daughters, Jack. I couldn't let them take these babies. Not once I knew the truth." Jack swallowed hard, overwhelmed. But then, Rose stiffened. "Jack," she whispered. "They still have the other 2. The words slammed into him like a truck. Connor nodded, jaw clenched. "The SUV that took them? I got the plate." And more importantly, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a cracked phone. "I hacked their comm frequency before they knocked me out." Jack took the phone. On the screen, time-stamped within the past 10 minutes, was a snippet of audio. "Transporting 2 assets to Warehouse 11. Prep containment. Emily wants confirmation." Rose closed her eyes, holding the 2 infants closer. Jack's entire body went electric. Warehouse 11. He recognized the location immediately. It belonged to his mother's foundation. And suddenly, every puzzle piece clicked into horrifying alignment. Jack stood slowly, fury surging hot and clear. "You're both coming with me," he said. "We're getting the other 2 babies back. Tonight." Rose's breath hitched. "Jack, are you sure?" He cupped her face, voice low, steady, unbreakable. "I am done letting people hurt you. I am done believing lies. And I am done letting anyone, Emily, my mother, anyone, decide what happens to children who deserve life and safety." Her eyes glimmered. Her voice trembled. "Jack." It wasn't a plea. It wasn't fear. It was the first spark of hope. He turned to Connor. "You're with me?" Connor nodded, teeth gritted through pain. "Until the end." Jack inhaled deeply, the kind of breath a man takes before changing everything. "Good. Then listen carefully." He knelt, spreading a blueprint of the foundation properties across the glass table. "Warehouse 11 has 3 fixed cameras and 2 motion sensors. But my mother kept an emergency entrance for herself, no cameras, no alarms. She thought no one knew." Jack looked up, voice cold. "She was wrong." Connor grinned weakly. "Love when the rich incriminate themselves." Jack tapped a finger on the blueprint. "We'll enter here. Blind spot. 20 seconds between guard rotations. Rose." Rose stiffened. "Yes? You're coming too." Connor blinked. "Sir, what?" "She's exhausted." But Jack shook his head. Eyes locked on Rose. Voice soft but firm. "She knows the baby's cry patterns. She knows how to calm them. And most importantly, she trusts her instincts with them more than any of us ever could." Rose's lips trembled. "Jack." He offered his hand. Not in apology. Not in pity. In partnership. "In this," he whispered, "we finish what you started." Rose placed her hand in his. A perfect, fragile, desperate fit. Connor pushed himself upright with a groan. "Then let's go save your kids." Rose inhaled sharply. Not at the word save. But at the word your. Jack didn't correct him. Couldn't. Not after the way the babies calmed when he held one earlier. Not after the way Rose looked at him now. Not after everything that had led down this impossible, twisted road. Jack grabbed the keys to his armored SUV. The narrator whispered, breathless, conspiratorial. "Drop a comment, what do you think will happen at Warehouse 11? And smash that subscribe button, the showdown you've been waiting for starts now." Jack opened the door. Rose held both infants tightly. Connor loaded the extra gear. And for the first time since the nightmare began, Jack stepped into the night with a clear, fierce purpose. Tonight, he would bring those children home. Tonight, the villains would fall. Tonight, Jack Skywalker would fight like a man reborn. Jack Skywalker had never seen the city like this. Not as a glittering skyline. Not as a billionaire's playground. But as a battleground. His armored SUV thundered through the industrial district, headlights cutting through fog and smoke as the clock ticked down. Every second that passed stabbed him with one truth. 2 of the babies were still out there. In danger. Terrified. Alone. Rose sat in the back seat, cradling the 2 infants Connor had saved. Every time the SUV rocked, her hands tightened protectively over their tiny bodies. Connor, face bruised, ribs wrapped, watched the mirrors like a hawk. Warehouse 11 appeared at the end of a desolate street like the skeleton of a monster, tall, rusty, silent except for the hum of electricity around its perimeter. Jack parked a block away. The building loomed. Dark. Wide. Waiting. "Jack," Rose whispered. "I'm scared." He turned, took her hand, kissed her knuckles gently. "You're the bravest woman I've ever known," he murmured. We go in together. We come out together. All 6 of them. Her breath shook. Promise? He held her gaze, steady, absolute. I swear it. Connor loaded a spare earpiece into Rose's ear and slipped one into Jack's. I'll stay outside with the 2 babies. I can't run on this rib, but I can watch the cameras and guide you both. Jack nodded. If anything happens, call police, SWAT, whoever picks up. Connor smirked. Already did. Told them there's a billionaire's property at risk. They'll come faster. Rose exhaled, half a laugh, half a sob. Jack squeezed her hand one last time, and they went in. Inside the warehouse. It smelled of bleach and cold metal. The sound of vents rattling overhead mixed with distant crying, soft, faint, but unmistakable. Rose froze. Jack. That's them. He nodded, jaw set, pulse spiking. Connor's voice crackled in their ears. Left corridor. 2 guards. Thermal shows a 3rd coming down the stairs. Jack grabbed Rose, pulling her behind a steel container just as 2 guards passed. Their boots thunked on concrete, their radios buzzed with static. Rose clutched Jack's sleeve, terrified to even breathe. The guards' voices drifted. Emily wants them out in 10. I heard the mother's involved. Not our problem. Just handle the package. Rose's eyes filled with tears, hot, angry, helpless. Jack's blood went ice cold. He waited until the men disappeared, then guided Rose forward. Connor whispered, 1 more guard ahead. Be careful. He's armed. Jack peered around the corner. And everything went still. It was Emily. Hair perfect. Dress spotless. Face twisted into a calm, sinister smile. She held one of the missing babies in her arms like a prop. A guard held the other beside her. Jack, she purred, you arrived faster than expected. Rose stiffened. Her breath caught. Jack stepped in front of her protectively. Emily, he said carefully, give them to us. Emily laughed softly. No. You don't get to order me anymore. You think I didn't see how you looked at her tonight? You think I didn't know you weren't over her? Her voice sharpened. Do you think I didn't know she'd try something desperate? Rose whispered, this isn't about me. Emily snapped. It's about all of you. Do you know how long I've waited for this life? How hard I worked to stand where I stand? She glared at Rose. You had your chance. You threw it away. Jack stepped forward. Emily, enough. Emily tilted her head. You always underestimated me, Jack. You thought I was just a pretty face with a perfect smile. But your mother believed in me. She understood vision. Power. Potential. Rose froze. Jack felt the blow before it landed. My mother, he whispered. Emily smirked. Oh Jack, sweet Jack. You poor boy. Do you really think your family's foundation became global without sacrifices? Rose's hand flew to her mouth. Emily continued, voice low and delighted. These 2 babies? They're not adoptable. They're assets. Currency. Promises made to donors who paid extraordinary amounts for children. Perfect, healthy children. Jack shook with rage. You're sick. No, Emily said calmly. I am loyal. And my mother? Jack demanded. What was she? Emily sighed, annoyed. Your mother built the network. I executed her instructions. Perfectly. And now you, 2 emotional disasters playing hero, are ruining everything. She lifted the baby in her arms, smiling sweetly at its tiny face. Rose lunged forward in panic. No, please, don't. Jack held her back. Rose was shaking so violently the floor seemed to vibrate beneath her. Jack looked Emily dead in the eyes. Put her down. Emily shrugged. I will. Eventually. After you sign a few documents. Jack's blood roared. Emily nodded to the guard. Take the babies to the back room. Prep transport. Rose screamed, fighting Jack's hold, blinded by terror. No. No, please, don't take them, please. Her voice cracked. Splintered. Collapsed. Jack made a choice in less than a breath. He didn't run. He didn't yell. He tackled Emily to the floor. Chaos exploded. The guard spun. Rose dove at him, maternal instinct blazing. Jack grabbed the baby from Emily's arms. Emily shrieked. The second baby fell, but Rose caught her. Connor's voice roared in their earpieces, "Run now, run, SWAT is inbound, G.O." Jack grabbed Rose's hand, they sprinted down the corridor, alarms blasting overhead. Emily's voice echoed behind them, wild, furious. "You'll pay for this, Jack. You're destroying everything." But Jack didn't look back. Not once. He kicked open the side emergency door. Blinding lights. Shouts. Police sirens. Connor waving frantically from beside the SUV. Jack shoved Rose inside, climbed in behind her, and Connor floored it. The warehouse receded into a blur of flashing red and blue lights. Rose sobbed, holding all 4 babies, counting them over and over through tears. 1, 2, 3, 4, oh God, oh thank God. Jack pulled her into him, arms wrapping around her and the newborns, sealing them all into a moment of safety he had almost lost. "You're safe," he whispered into her hair. "I've got you. I've got all of you." Rose burst into uncontrollable tears, relief and love and terror all tangled together. And as the SUV sped away, Jack Skywalker understood something so deeply it shook him. These weren't just Rose's babies. They weren't just victims. They weren't just rescued children. They were his family now. The family he never knew he needed. The family he would die to protect. The hospital room was warm. Quiet. Safe. A world away from the terror of Warehouse 11. 4 tiny babies slept in their bassinets side by side, soft breaths rising and falling like a chorus of miracles. Rose sat between them, wrapped in a blanket a nurse had insisted she take. Her eyes were tired, still red from crying, but softer now, full of something that looked like hope. Jack stood at the window, speaking to the officers who had just finished taking his statement. Emily had been arrested an hour earlier. His mother's private plane, attempting to flee the country, was intercepted mid-tarmac. The Foundation's entire network was being dismantled piece by piece. Every ugly truth was coming to light. But for the first time in days, Jack wasn't focused on the scandal, the headlines, or the noise. He was focused on Rose. When the officers left, silence settled gently over the dim hospital room. Jack walked toward her slowly, carefully, like approaching something sacred. Rose looked up. "Jack," she whispered. "Is it over?" He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "Yes," he said. "It's over. Completely." Rose exhaled, her shoulders collapsing in exhausted relief as she leaned back against the chair. Jack watched her, throat tightening. "You saved them," he said softly. "You saved all of them, Rose. Without you, none of this would have been exposed. None of them would be alive." Rose shook her head. "I didn't save them alone." Jack brushed a loose strand of hair from her cheek. His voice lowered. "No. We did it together." Her eyes softened. For the first time in a long time, she let herself really look at him. And what she found there wasn't the arrogant man she once loved and lost. It was someone changed. Humbled. Burned and reforged by truth and consequence. A man who fought for what mattered, not for reputation, but for family. Rose whispered, "Jack, why did you come for me? After everything that happened between us?" He swallowed hard. "Because I never should have let you go," he said. "Because I hurt you. I failed you. And I'll spend my life making it right if you let me. Tears filled her eyes. Jack. He took her face gently in both hands. Rose Kenobi, you were never the mistake. You were the miracle I was too blind to fight for. A tiny cry echoed from the bassinets. One baby stirred. Then another. Rose turned instinctively, maternal instinct flickering across her features, and Jack felt his heart collapse into something warm and undeniable. He stood and moved beside her, lifting one baby with careful hands. Rose watched him, shocked at the tenderness in his movements. He cradled the tiny girl against his chest and whispered, "You're safe now. I promise." Rose wiped her eyes. "You're good with them." Jack smiled softly. "They're my responsibility now too." She hesitated. "But Jack, they're not biologically yours." He stepped closer, holding the infant gently. "They don't have to be mine," he whispered. Rose covered her mouth, tears spilling. The baby stirred again and Jack nodded to the empty sofa. "Rose," he murmured, "come sit. Rest. Let me help." She hesitated, pain, exhaustion, pride all battling, but then she nodded and let him guide her to the couch. He sat beside her, close but careful, as they tended to the babies together, adjusting blankets, checking their little hands, whispering soothing noises into soft hair. It looked like a family. It felt like a family. A new beginning rising quietly from the ashes of trauma. Rose leaned her head onto Jack's shoulder. "I never thought I'd be safe again," she whispered. "I never thought any of this could turn out right." Jack pressed a kiss to her forehead, gentle, reverent. "You're safe now. Because from today on, you're not doing any of this alone." She closed her eyes. "Jack, are we really going to do this? Raise them? Together?" He turned her chin toward him. Those soft, familiar eyes caught his breath. "Yes," he whispered. "Together, if you'll have me." She let out a trembling laugh. "I'd like that." He smiled. "Then let's start right here." A nurse entered quietly. "Mr. Skywalker? Ms. Kenobi? The police chief wants to know if you'd like an escort when you leave with the children." Jack nodded. "Yes. And please bring adoption paperwork. Emergency guardianship first." Rose stared at him. "Jack, adoption?" He took her hand again, warm, steady, sure. "These four deserve stability. Safety. A real home. And I want to build that with you." Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks, this time soft, grateful ones. "Jack. I never thought you'd want." "I want all of it," he whispered. "You, them, us." Rose leaned in, slowly, cautiously, and Jack met her halfway. Their lips touched softly at first, gentle, trembling, a rediscovery rather than a rush. A healing. A promise. When they pulled apart, the babies slept peacefully, their tiny chests rising and falling between them like little anchors tying two hearts back together. The narrator leaned in softly, warm, emotional. If you followed this story to the end, give this reunited family your blessings in the comments. And make sure you subscribe for more breathtaking tales like this one. Jack wrapped an arm around Rose, holding her close as dawn's first light warmed the windows. A new day. A new beginning. A new family, born from chaos, held together by courage, rebuilt through love. And the final truth settled over both of them like sunlight. They hadn't just saved 4 babies. They had saved each other.